Hello everyone and Assalamu alaikum. This is Introduction to Psychology Part 2 Barrier Knowledge. Okay, so we have successfully completed the chapter 2 and now it is time for the chapter 3 in which we will be learning about the learning. So this is going to be a very interesting topic and it's very easy topic. Even those who are not familiar with the psychology, even they will be able to quickly understand the chapter 3 which is about learning. So this is very interesting and very easy topic. So before moving towards the chapter today's lecture, so let's start with a chapter overview, what we will be learning in the chapter of learning. So in the chapter 3 which is about learning, we will first start with the definition of learning, in which we will learn what actually learning is, what is the definition of learning in terms of psychology. And we will start this lesson with a short case study, and then the chapter will be continued with the reference of that case study. So, this is going to be a very interesting chapter. And in definition of learning, we will also learn about the importance of learning, like why should we study learning, and then in the end we will learn about the definition of learning. And after the definition of learning in lesson 2 we will learn about the types of learning. And obviously there are two main types of learning: the classical conditioning and the operant conditioning. So these are the two types of learning which we will be covering in chapter 3. And then we will move towards the lesson 3, which will be about the methods of learning. And in the methods of learning, there are three main methods of learning. First one is trial and error, and then we will learn about learning by insight. And last but not least, we will also cover observational learning. So these are the three main methods of learning. These are some of the main topics that must be included in chapter 3. If I find any other topic that I think I should include in chapter 3, I will also upload a video on that. And if you think there is any topic missing and you want a lecture on that, which should be included in this chapter, you can also write those topics in the comment section and I'll also upload a video on that as well. So this is all about the chapter overview, and in this video we will start with definition of learning. So this is going to be the chapter 3, learning, lesson 1, definition of learning. So let's start with a short case study. Now, I will read a case study. It's just a short story, and I want you people to close your eyes so you can imagine the whole scenario. So, close your eyes and then listen to me and listen to the case study and imagine the whole scene. Okay, so this is a case study or a short story of a girl named Stephanie. Now, when Stephanie was an infant, she was constantly getting sick. And this was long before the time when giving immunizations to infants had become routine, which meant that Stephanie spent a lot of her infancy in the doctor's office. Antibiotics were delivered by injection. The shots were obviously painful and caused Stephanie to scream and cry. Of course, the doctor is in his white coat, the nurse in her white uniform were always present, as well as the white paper covering the examining table. It didn't take too many visits before Stephanie would scream when she saw the white coat people coming towards her, especially the nurse, who was usually the one who delivered the hated shot. Now, when Stephanie was 1 year old, her mother took her to a photography studio to have her portrait made. Now, in those days, the photographer wore a white jacket to look more professional and took the picture on a carpeted platform with a white sheet draped across it. Now, Stephanie threw a fit, crying and screaming. The photographer had to take his jacket off and remove the white drape, and after about an hour, she was finally calm enough to pose for the picture on a bed. platform. Now you can open your eyes. Now, why white coats made the baby scream? Why did Stephanie have this reaction? Now, Stephanie's reaction to the photo session was the result of a special type of learning called classical conditioning, which we will be learning in detail, which we will be studying in detail in the lesson 2, the types of learning. But just to give you a quick clue or short uh, idea about what classical conditioning actually is. Now, in this type of learning, objects or situations, such as white coats and being up on the table, can become associated or linked with other kinds of situations, such as pain of injections. And once the situation is made, similar objects or situation can cause the same response, for example, screaming in fear that the earlier situation causes. Now, let's come to the importance of learning. Why study learning? Why there is a need to study learning? So, if we had not been able to learn, we would have died out as a species long ago. Learning is a process that allows us to adapt to the changing condition of the world around us. We can alter our actions until we find the behavior that leads us to survival and rewards, and we can eliminate actions that have been unsuccessful in the past. Now, without learning, there would be no buildings, no agriculture, no life saving medicines, and of course, no human civilization. Now, this is what we have learned about the importance of learning. The question is, what is learning? Now, the term learning is one of those concepts whose meaning is crystal clear until one has to put it in actual words. Learning is when you learn something, or learning is learning how to do something. Or a more useful definition is as follows: learning is any relatively permanent change in behavior brought about by experience or practice. What does relatively permanent mean? And how does experience change what we do? The relatively permanent part of the definition refers to the fact that when people learn anything, some part of their brain is physically changed to record what they've learned. This is actually a process of memory. For without the ability to remember what happens. So people cannot, for without the ability to remember what happens, people cannot learn anything. And although there is no conclusive proof as yet, but research suggests strongly that once people learn something, it is always present somewhere in the memory. They may be unable to get it, or they may be unable to get to it, but it's there. Now, as for the part about the experience or practice, think about the last time you did something that caused you a lot of pain. Are you going to do it again? Of course not. You don't want to experience that pain again. So you change your behavior to avoid the painful consequence. And this is how children learn not to touch the hot stove. Of course, if a person does something that results in a very pleasurable consequence, that person is more likely to do that same thing again. And this is another change in behavior. Now, think back to the prologue. Stephanie's experience with the doctor and the nurse changed her behavior from that of a friendly, outgoing infant to a frightened, screaming child whenever she saw anyone in white coat coming near her. So, is any kind of change learning? Not all change is accomplished through learning. Now, any kind of change in the way an organism behaves is learning. But changes like increase in height or the size of the brain are another kind of learning, which is controlled by a genetic blueprint. Now, this kind of change is called maturation, and it is not the same as learning. For example, children learn to walk when they do because their nervous system muscle strength, and sense of balance have reached to the point where walking is possible for them. Now, all factors controlled by maturations, not by how much practice those children have had in trying to walk. No amount of experience or practice will help the child walk before maturity makes it possible, in spite of what some eager parents might wish. So this was all about today's video. If your concept is clear, you can like the video. If there was any point which was confusing, you didn't get it or you didn't understood, you can ask us in the comment section and we will be happy to help you out. Plus, if you're new to this channel, subscribe to our channel, click on the bell icon so you will never ever miss any notification. You can also share the link of this video, the link of our channel with your family members and friends because sharing is caring. Until then, Allah Hafiz.